I exposed my half-sister for stealing my fiancé. Now her marriage is over, and my parents aren't speaking to me. I'm 27 years old and got married just 2 weeks ago. I planned and organized my entire wedding myself, and the guests kept raving about how beautiful and perfect everything was. It was very gratifying to hear that. My half-sister, who is 26, couldn't stand it and told everyone that I stole her ideas. She's always been envious of me, so it didn't surprise me at all, but I was very upset when some relatives started asking if I really stole the idea from my half-sister, which was completely unfair because I definitely didn't do that. My half-sister has been making up stories about me for a long time to make herself look better in comparison to me, and I'm really tired of it. When I was 16, my mom remarried, and since then, my half-sister and I have not been able to stand each other. At first, I tried to befriend her, but she never wanted that and always turned everything into a competition, which infuriated me. Once, she spread a rumor at school that I supposedly hit on her boyfriend after I was selected for the cheerleading team. Because of that, almost all the girls hated me and laughed at me for nearly a month, except for a few. That's the kind of person my half-sister is. I put up with her antics for a long time, knowing that she was only doing it to irritate me, and if I reacted, she would win. But in the case of the wedding, I couldn't just let it go because I had spent weeks planning it. She couldn't just come and slander me after everything I did to make my wedding perfect. I understand it was petty, but as soon as I found out she was telling everyone I stole her ideas, I decided to call her. I told her she needed to stop lying, but she laughed in my face, called me a sensitive loser, and hung up. So, I decided to expose her and her husband to our entire family. For context, her current husband, who is 30, was my boyfriend when I was 23. Back then, I was living with my parents and my half-sister because I was saving money to eventually move out. I met my ex at work and fell in love almost immediately. However, he wanted our relationship to be strictly secret and didn't allow me to tell my friends about him outside of work, which, to be honest, should have raised some red flags. After just 2 months of knowing each other, I decided to bring him home so he could meet my parents and, of course, my half-sister. I didn't notice it then, but she was acting overly flirtatious and nice towards him, and I couldn't even imagine that my ex would cheat on me with her. I guess that's when they started secretly communicating behind my back, while I, unaware of their intrigue, continued dating him and fell more and more in love. After nearly a year of the relationship, I decided I wanted to marry him and proposed. It was unconventional, but I loved him so much that I couldn't wait for him to propose to me, so I took the initiative. I took him to a fancy restaurant, and at the end of the evening, when I finally proposed, he said he needed time to think. I wish he had broken up with me right then, but he had the audacity to drag our relationship out for another 3 months, all the while cheating on me with my half-sister. I was upset that he turned down my proposal, but I still stayed with him, hoping I could change his mind. We finally broke up 3 months after my proposal when he confessed he was in love with my half-sister and wanted to be with her. And as if that wasn't enough, he told me she was 3 months pregnant, so in a couple of weeks, her belly would start showing, and they decided to get married as soon as possible. I went into hysterics and had a huge fight with my half-sister, but my parents intervened and forbade me from even talking about it, fearing that the scandal would ruin the family's reputation. My stepfather was quite popular, and I had no choice but to obey because I was living with them at the time. My ex and my half-sister had a small, modest wedding ceremony in the backyard of my parents' house with a few close friends and relatives, and then she moved in with my ex. Of course, I didn't go to the wedding and spent the entire week before it in a cheap motel, drinking and stress-eating the whole time. A few weeks after the wedding, I decided I had enough money to rent my own place and moved out of my parents' house, but that didn't help my mental state at all. I fell into a deep depression. I spent my days eating, drinking, and sleeping. I even quit my job because I couldn't force myself to get out of bed. However, I still had a friend who cared about me, and that person was my current husband. We had been close friends since our school days, but I never saw him as a romantic partner because he had a reputation as the class clown. For several weeks after my sister's wedding, I skipped all the friends' parties and didn't respond to any calls or messages. I thought they would forget about me because everyone was busy with their own lives, but he didn't forget. He was the only one who found out through my parents where I lived and came to my house. He took care of me for several weeks. Despite the fact that I was rude and distant, he didn't leave me for a second and helped me get back to a normal life. Damn it, he even paid my bills because I had no money after quitting my job. I literally owe him my life and will be eternally grateful for everything he has done for me. After a few weeks, I finally told him everything that had happened with my ex and my half-sister, and he comforted me. Then we never officially became a couple, he just moved in with me after some time, and that was it. We never needed to discuss it, and even today we joke that he never even invited me on a date. Anyway, that's how it happened, and I decided it was time for the rest of my family to know what really happened. I first discussed my plan to expose the truth with my husband, and he fully supported me. He said that after everything I had been through, it was only fair that I wanted to tell everyone the truth. So, a couple of days ago, I invited the whole family to my house. I called my half-sister and spoke to her in the sweetest tone so she wouldn't suspect anything, and she came over. When everyone was gathered at my house, I started by bringing up her words about how I supposedly stole her wedding ideas. I reminded her that she didn't even have a proper wedding, considering the circumstances under which she got married. Some guests awkwardly laughed, some looked embarrassed, and some just seemed puzzled, but I continued. I said that since she was accusing me of stealing her wedding ideas, maybe I should tell everyone what she had done to me. After all, she actually stole my husband. This caused a few gasps and shocked faces among the guests, especially my parents and my ex, who turned red. I told the whole story, and the guests looked as if they had been served a delicious dish on a silver platter, fodder for gossip for the whole year. When I finished, there was a full minute of silence. Then my half-sister stood up and ran out of the house, followed by her husband. Gradually, all the guests also left in silence. The last to leave were my parents, who were furious and even dared to demand that I apologize to my half-sister for humiliating her in front of so many people. I said that I had no intention of apologizing because she had tried to ruin my life more than once and completely deserved it. My husband also said that they had no right to demand an apology from me when they had never demanded that my half-sister apologize to me, especially considering that her actions were much worse than mine. He also scolded my parents for not even bothering to find out how I was coping with the betrayal. This led to an argument between us, and I told them that if they were going to be disrespectful to me and my husband, they should leave my house. And that's what happened almost 4 days ago. Since then, I haven't spoken to any of them. I know for sure that the other relatives are no longer speaking to my half-sister. Now she is suffering because she is a true extrovert and can't stand that no one is communicating with her. Update 1. My mom is furious with me for what I did and blames me for ruining her daughter's life. I'm not joking, she actually says that to make me feel guilty. For several days now, she has been texting me, demanding that I tell the whole family that I made it all up out of jealousy towards my half-sister. She also said that my half-sister and her husband are very upset because of my actions and are considering cutting off all ties with me, which doesn't make sense because we only communicate at family events where we have to be polite. In reality, I only invited my half-sister to the wedding because my mom forced me to, otherwise it would have looked strange. I don't understand why my mom thinks I should apologize, but I've decided to just ignore her for a few days. I was very upset that my mom took my half-sister's side, but honestly, I'm used to it. I told my husband everything, and he thinks it's best to just ignore her and let the situation go. That's what I'm doing, I've washed my hands of them. Update 2. So, it's been 2 days since the last update, and I decided to block all of them. Only after that did I realize how much this whole situation had been weighing on me, and I felt an immense sense of relief when I finally cut these people out of my life. I can't believe my mom had been making me pretend to be on good terms with my half-sister for so long just so people wouldn't judge them for failing at parenting. They couldn't raise my half-sister to be a normal person, yet I was still supposed to suffer because of it. But in general, I blocked them all and thought that would be the end of it. However, last night, my mom came to my house. She looked very disappointed because I had nothing to say to her after almost 5 minutes of awkward silence. She began to tell me how my actions had negatively affected the family. I interrupted her, stating that there was no family for me after she married my stepfather. It became clear that she preferred my half-sister, and everything she did was forgiven, while the same rules were not applied to me. I told her how much she had hurt me over the years and that I was no longer going to apologize or pretend. I've had enough. My mom was very upset after my monologue and tried to explain that she had distanced herself from me after the divorce with my dad because I reminded her too much of him, which is, of course, unfair because, yes, I look like my father, but that's no reason to treat me as if I'm not her daughter. I said I would try to understand her point of view, but I couldn't forgive her so quickly and that I needed time. But no matter how my relationship with my mom turns out, I am not going to apologize to my half-sister or pretend that I'm sorry. I told my mom that, and she left, looking like a storm cloud, but there's nothing I can do. It's been a day since our last conversation, and although I unblocked her, we haven't spoken. Update 3. A week has passed since my last conversation with my mom, and she hasn't tried to contact me again, so I guess she has no regrets, and that suits me just fine. Honestly, I've come to terms with the fact that she prefers my half-sister, and nothing I say or do will change that. But my half-sister still hasn't forgiven me for what I did and has started badmouthing me to all the relatives. She claims that her husband cheated on me only because I was a toxic psychopath, and with her, he found peace. She asserts that I emotionally drained him, which was one of the reasons he eventually cheated on me. Another reason, according to her, was that I pressured him into marriage despite him saying he wasn't ready and that it scared him. Of course, none of this is true, but the relatives are now divided on who to believe because, unlike me, my half-sister is a very convincing liar. One of my cousins constantly updates me on the new fabrications my half-sister is spreading about me, and it's infuriating to try to paint me as the liar when everyone knows what she's really like. I'm confident that my mom won't get involved in this, and I won't ask her to because she will refuse to say anything against her favorite daughter. But I don't intend to let this go unanswered. If my half-sister can stoop so low, then I can definitely go even further. I've blocked her on all social media, but fortunately, I know many of her colleagues and friends, and I plan to show everyone what kind of person she really is. It's petty and cruel, and I'm glad I've finally stopped pretending that I care about her or her feelings because she never cared about mine. My husband thinks that everything I'm doing, no matter how petty and mean it may be, stems from justified anger. I had to suppress my anger and resentment towards my half-sister for so long that it would have inevitably come out destructively, and he thinks now is the best time for it because she has been pushing me to react for a long time. In general, I've decided that this time I will expose her. I wrote everything my half-sister did to me, with evidence, because I had screenshots of the correspondence between me and my ex, as well as the mocking messages she sent me over the years, to prove that I'm not lying. I posted it yesterday, and my phone has been literally blowing up with notifications because so many people are writing to me. To my surprise, I'm not only hearing from relatives but also from my half-sister's colleagues. Even some of her acquaintances have sent me messages, telling me about their negative experiences with her. It turns out that at work, she flirts with every guy, regardless of whether he's married or not. As if that weren't enough, she also treats other women like trash, constantly saying bad things about her so-called friends behind their backs. So far, I've learned that she's a flirt, a gossip, and a traitor, and the list keeps growing. My half-sister is furious that I've made this information public and is trying to contact me. She's even created several different accounts to try to intimidate me and make me delete the post, but she doesn't scare me at all, so the post is still online. I'm sure she's already complained about it, so maybe Facebook will eventually delete it, but I definitely won't be the one to do it. My mom is also angry with me and keeps saying that she expected me to handle this like a mature woman. She says I've disappointed her and acted like a complete fool. She also said that my stepfather is very angry about my antics because they've affected his reputation among his friends, so he demanded that I publicly apologize to everyone and delete my posts. If I don't do that, they will be forced to cut me out of their lives, which means all my inheritance will go to my half-sister. It's funny that they think their threat of cutting me off will work when I was the one who blocked them first. So, obviously, I don't care if my stepfather wants me in his life or not. I will be a little disappointed if my mom stops talking to me, but as I said, I've accepted the fact that she doesn't love me as much as she adores her second daughter, and that suits me just fine. As for the inheritance, I earn enough, and my husband does too, so we're not worried about money. Moreover, when my dad died a few years ago, he left me much more money than what's at stake here. So, honestly, I'm not worried about the inheritance at all. Update 5. 2 days have passed since I published my post, and damn, this post opened a Pandora's box. First of all, my parents are not talking to me. When I told my mom that I wasn't going to delete the post, she tried to convince me that losing the relationship with my parents wasn't worth it and that revenge on my half-sister shouldn't be my only goal in life. I reminded her that I already had almost no relationship with them, so I was ready to lose what was left if it meant the possibility of getting revenge on the evil demon. This led to an argument, and it ended with my mom blocking me everywhere. Yesterday, I learned from other relatives that my half-sister and her husband are planning to divorce. I was very puzzled about what happened overnight. After some investigation, my cousin informed me that apparently, one of her male colleagues who saw my post decided to write her husband. This colleague sent him several screenshots where my half-sister was trying to flirt with him, and since he was already married, it put him in an awkward position. Obviously, this didn't sit well with my half-sister's husband. They had a fight and decided to divorce. He has filed for divorce and is demanding sole custody of their son, which is, of course, sad for the child, but honestly, I'm glad they're finally getting their comeuppance for everything they put me through. I completely distanced myself from this situation, and I suppose my half-sister has learned her lesson because after that post, she went silent. It's crazy how one decision to expose her eventually led to the destruction of her marriage and possibly her relationship with her son. But I don't feel guilty at all, she brought this all on herself. As far as I know, she's moved back in with my parents because she's also facing backlash at work due to her behavior. So, she might have to quit her job soon. I feel relieved thinking that I won't have to deal with her and her craziness in the foreseeable future. To ensure that I stay as far away from her as possible, my husband and I have decided to go on a honeymoon this week. We're going on a tour of Europe, and I'm incredibly excited about the upcoming trip. I'm looking forward to forgetting all this dramatic nonsense about my half-sister, parents, and family for a few weeks and trying to enjoy life to the fullest. I hope that when I return, I'll be freer from all this emotional baggage. Honestly, now that I've finally cut ties with my family, I feel much lighter. Well, that's the end of the story. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments. Personally, I'm very glad that the story ended with a happy ending, as it should have, because, as you know, not all the stories we tell end with a happy ending. Personally, I was surprised that her colleagues cut her off after they found out everything, but then again, these were the same colleagues who provided the additional evidence for the post. On the other hand, I understand that one action could have triggered a chain reaction, and everything just snowballed from there. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Watch our previous video, which you'll see here, and good luck. The story is about a woman who exposed her half-sister for stealing her fiancé and ruining her marriage. The aftermath includes family conflicts, social media exposure, and the eventual collapse of the half-sister's marriage and possibly her career. The narrator feels justified in her actions due to the pain and betrayal she experienced. She is now looking forward to moving on with her life, free from the drama and negativity that surrounded her family relationships.